Hello again. You are watching On the Town, sponsored by The Vegas Voice. I am the publisher and editor of The Vegas Voice, Dan Roberts, and this show deals with local entertainment in Las Vegas, all the good people in town, and what they do to make this city a great place. I am very fortunate to have on as my guest today one of my buddies. I guess you're my buddy, the radio host of The Vegas Voice, as well as a columnist. Do a little bit of everything. Comic impressionist Rich Natole.
That's right. This is Johnny Carson, and it's nice to be here with Dan Roberts.
Very good, very good. So, Rich has been with us a very long time. You're one of my buddies. Believe it or not, I consider you a buddy. And you know what? We've had discussions many times. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start with that.
About me? What do you want to know?
Well, how many
been
times
doing
were you in
impressions
jail?
my whole life.
Yeah.
Been doing celebrity impressions my whole life, and stand-up. Started in high school shows, and then started in the comedy clubs in San Francisco.
Right.
You know, I started with all the guys I started with. You know, Robin Williams, Dana Carvey, Bobby Slayton, Paula Poundstone, Ellen DeGeneres, Whoopi Goldberg. These were all people that played this club called the Holy City Zoo on Clement Street in San Francisco. That's where we all started. You know,
how did you even get into that? I mean, did you wake up one day and say, "Oh my God, I can do George Burns as an example"?
No, it was one of those things in high school where they were looking for acts for the talent shows. So I was doing 5 or 6 voices, and my friends would go, "You have to be in the talent show because we'll get out of school."
And this was in high school.
Yeah, it's during school hours, and if you do impressions in the talent show, they'll have enough acts. You know, because they already had enough acts, they needed like one more act. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting in front of all these people, right? Because the whole school was there. It was an auditorium full. So they talked me into it, and I did it. And the assembly went on. And from then on, it was like, this was a lot of fun.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I was scared, but I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You recall who the first voices you did and how were you able to pick it up?
Yeah, I did. You know, ironically, I did Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali. That's right. It's me, the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did those two. I did Jimmy Carter. I did Jimmy Carter at the time. And I did Ronald Reagan. I did him too, yes.
And is it easy for you to pick up the voices, or how do you know whether it's good or not? I mean,
well, you know, I can kind of tell. It's a hard thing to explain. I mean, when I interviewed Rich Little on the radio show, radio show, we talked about a lot of that. Whereas it was a lot of fun. You kind of feel like the person, you know, like when John Travolta first became this big star in Saturday Night Fever, and nobody was doing them. And I started doing him, and I just started to talk like that, all right? And John Travolta kind of talks like that. And people would go crazy because they had never heard that. But it was like when I do it, I feel like him. I feel like John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever, right? Yeah. And it's just one of those things with voices that if you kind of get in the heads of these people and you feel like them, you really do.
And you were always
Rich Little understood that, you know.
You know, and that's something I was going to go into, but let's discuss it now. Rich Little, everybody knows Rich Little of a certain generation.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm sure you looked at him as either one of the godfathers.
Oh, he was the godfather. Yeah.
And yet, as the picture shows, you interviewed him for the radio show. And what's it like when you interview someone who you just admire?
It was
and respect?
amazing. It was just amazing. And he's such a nice man, but it was just amazing to talk about the craft with a person who pioneered it. He pioneered the art of mimicry. I mean, there was nobody that could come. I mean, Frank Gorshin was good, but Frank Gorshin didn't have the repertoire Rich Little had. Rich Little, you know, came on the scene. He was doing 150 voices, and he was staying up to date. He was doing all the current politicians and the movie stars. He did everybody from Jimmy Stewart to Columbo. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother. And it was just amazing. Oh,
there you are now.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was just amazing that he had the repertoire, the range, and I just admired that. I watched him since I was a kid.
As a kid, and you're looking at the leader, the number one guy, and yet he's coming in and coming in for your radio show on the Vegas Voice, and it must have been a hell of a kick.
And there was a voice called a celebrity named Robert Wagner, that Rich Little asked me to show him how to do one time. And Robert Wagner talked like this.
Right.
He still does. Thank you. And then we were talking about Donald Trump, and he was loving the Donald Trump, This you're a loser, you're all losers, you're fired. And so we would do a lot of that.
And again, you've been doing shows and you've been doing stand-up for about how many years? Decades.
Decades.
Yeah. And you've been all over the country, I assume.
All over the country. I've done comedy in almost every state in the country. The only states I haven't been in the Dakotas. Although I was booked there one time and canceled because I got a better gig somewhere, but I was booked there once. But those are the only two places I haven't been: North Dakota and South Dakota.
You really haven't missed anything. Then, have you?
Well, but I've been everywhere. I mean, even Canada. I've been all over Canada doing shows in different clubs in Canada and corporate shows. Did several shows for Shell Canada,
right,
up there, and comedy clubs up there. So yeah, even Canada and cruise ships.
And you've been all over. Yet, I guess you have to refresh your craft every 15 minutes or every hour because of the changing personalities that are involved.
Well, I try to just add new people, like Bernie. I'm doing Bernie Sanders as a Hillary Clinton got a new GPS in her car. You saw me do this the other night.
Yep.
Hillary Clinton got a new GPS. Unfortunately, it's Bernie Sanders' voice in there. I'm sick and tired of having to say this, but I'd be more than happy to tell you where to go.
Yeah.
So I try to get the newer voices in the show as quickly as I can.
Do you find that political voices are just as popular with the crowd, or entertainers?
But but political voices, you have to walk a fine line. Now, you don't want to show partisanship in any way, so you want to always even things out. So if you're doing Donald Trump, you want to do Bernie Sanders. If you're doing, if you're slamming George W. Bush, you want to slam Bill Clinton. You want to be an equal opportunity slammer, Dan. That's what you want to do.
Are you going to have problems if Hillary becomes president? Or can you do a female
no,
voices?
because what that's going to do is, she has a doable voice. She actually a friend of mine, female precious Bethany Owen, who I think Bethany Owen does a great Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So I will have Bethany show me how to do that voice because Bethany's got it down, and so she is doable. She's has kind of a deep voice, so a guy could do her, and also that's going to provide a wealth of material for Bill Clinton again if she gets in. So. There's material all around us.
So you're set either way.
I want Trump for the material alone.
Right.
Just for the material.
Just for the material.
Yeah.
You've been doing this so long, and yet you've met some of the greatest people.
Yeah.
Starting with, even with Marty Allen. Marty
Allen is one of the greatest comedians of all time.
And yet, do you enjoy his company because, or do you
I
try
love
to
Marty
one
Allen. I love Marty Allen, and when I talk to him on the phone, it's a joke fest. I mean, he's an encyclopedia. Oh, he's a wonderful guy, and his wife is terrific.
And again, you've had him on the radio show.
Oh, 4 or 5 times. I mean,
and everything is still new. It's like
it's all still new because Marty Allen tells wonderful stories about the game shows because he was like a game show contestant. When I would stay home sick from elementary school,
right.
And I would watch the game shows religiously and
Hollywood
all the celebrities
Squares,
and he was on every one.
Yeah.
As soon as Hollywood Squares was over, I'd put on Match Game, and he was on there. And then I'd switch in and be Beat the Clock with Marty Allen. He's there too.
He's everywhere.
And I said, what a great gig this guy has. I mean, he's on all the shows.
Again, it must be quite a joy growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Wanting to go into the comedy and go into show business, and yet now you get to meet with them. And you're on an equal level.
It's unbelievable, and I've gotten to open for a lot of, one of the big bands when I was in high school was America. America was huge, and all of a sudden I was opening for America in Laughlin at a 2,000-seat amphitheater that was sold out, and I was their opening act. And I was driving there. I remember saying to my wife, I hope these guys are nice guys to me because I really love them. I mean, I love their music there, and they were such nice guys.
And speaking of nice guys, you opened also for Wayne Newton for
I worked with Wayne Newton. Yeah, Wayne Newton at the Tropicana. Worked with Wayne. I've worked with the Four Tops, Peebo Bryson, Roy Clark. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Is it a learning lesson also? Again, you opened up. Again, Wayne Newton is the legend, Wayne Newton, Mr. Las Vegas.
I love Wayne. I love the way he speaks. Wayne is a great guy.
And is he the same way that he is off the stage?
The same guy. Wayne would come up to me backstage in his tuxedo,
And he would come to me and go, I have another joke for you, Rich.
And he would tell me jokes, and he would tell me stories about how he got his big break, how Bobby Darin saw him perform, and how he used to open for Jack Benny, and Jack Benny invited him on his TV show, and stories about Dean Martin and Elvis. He used to hang out with Elvis. And I mean, Wayne is just... I mean, you can see why everybody loved him. All the classic stars from Sinatra to Sammy to Dean Martin, they all loved Wayne Newton because Wayne he's just like you and I. He's a great guy, easy to talk to, you know.
So, again, were you ever intimidated being in front of these people?
Absolutely. I mean, Wayne, especially Wayne. I mean, when I first met Wayne, it was a funny story because the head of entertainment at the Tropicana saw my show upstairs. I was doing an afternoon show, and Wayne Newton was coming into the hotel. And they were closing out everybody's show because Wayne Newton was coming in. New owners bought the Tropicana, so everybody had to close their show. So I was being forced to close. My show was doing well too. So the entertainment lady called me in the office, and she was telling me, "Well, I'm directing Wayne Newton's show coming in." And I said to her jokingly, I said, "You know, it's the same demographic as me." I said, I said I'd love to work with Wayne Newton, and I kind of laughed it off. And she said, "You know, I'm going to see him at midnight tonight because we're writing the show." She goes, "I'm going to tell him about you." And I go, "Yeah, right." Yeah. So about a week later, I was watching people get seated for my show. So this kid, one of the kids that was in the press conference that Wayne was having in the big theater at the time, comes running out and says, "Rich, do you have a rack card?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "Why?" He says, "Nancy, the entertainment lady, she's in there with Wayne Newton in the press conference, and he wants to know who you are." I said, "Really?" Yeah. So he goes, grabs a rack card, goes in there. About another week goes by, and Nancy calls me and says, "Wayne wants to meet you at midnight. He's doing a closed rehearsal in the room." So I show up. And
you showed up?
Of course.
Yeah.
I showed up, and he walks off the stage. He walks up to me, and he said,
"I understand that you're going to add some of your talent to my show."
And I said, "Whatever you want, sir." And he goes, "Well, it's not sir, it's Wayne."
Isn't that something?
And he goes, I want you to hang out. And then he started telling me stories about Elvis. And he played an audio tape, which ended up not being in his show. But he played an audio tape of Elvis at a luncheon going up, introduced by Colonel Parker. And Elvis goes on stage and says, "Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wayne Newton." Yeah. And the crowd cracked up laughing. I said, "Wayne, that's gold." Elvis saying he's you? I said, "That is gold." Yeah. You know. And so we hit it off from the start and became good friends. In fact, he was supposed to do a reality show called Wayne's World on the WE network. And he had said to me, "You know, if this show goes, I want you on the show. I'd like to have you on the show." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be there." Yeah. And then at the last minute, they wanted editing control. And so Wayne said, "No, we can't have editing control." So they didn't work out a deal at that network. So I don't know what's going on with it. But he was a great guy, you know.
And now over the last 2 years, I mean, let me give a plug if I may. You've been our Vegas Voice radio host. How do you enjoy doing radio interviews?
I love doing radio interviews. I love working with you.
Yeah.
And the Vegas Voice Vegas Voice. And we've been on a few different stations, and now we're on Magic 97.9 FM every Monday from 10 to 11 a.m. Yeah. And we get great guests, as we do in all the radio stations we've been on. We get great guests, and we have everyone, like you said, from Marty Allen to Rich Little to, you know, I've had the people from the Walker, Texas Ranger TV show and just Vanna White and just everybody, a lot of big known celebrities.
Do you enjoy being on the other side of asking the questions as opposed to answering them?
You know, I'm more familiar with this side because my whole career I've been on this side. But I like being on your side too.
You like being on my side?
I like doing both.
You like doing both.
I do like. I like interviewing people because I like to find out their story. Every celebrity, every entertainer has a different story.
Right.
And I love to find out, like, where did Regis come from? How did he get to become Regis? You know, and I like to know. I like to know, like, how did you start? Where'd you come from?
And yet, when you meet these people and you do their voices, do they realize that you are doing them, and do they enjoy it, or they say, "Hey, I sound better than that"?
Well, you know, when I would do Jay Leno's voice for Jay Leno, and I'd say, "You know, Jay, well, here's something that was in the paper. Did you read this?" And he would go, "Do I really sound like that?" And I'd say, "Unfortunately, you do."
but no one ever really took offense to it.
No. You know, I think an impression is the greatest form of flattery. I do. You know.
And so you flatter a lot of people. Then
I flatter a lot of people. I think that I think they like it. I mean, I think when Rich Little would do Ronald Reagan,
Right.
and there I go again. I mean, Reagan would laugh. He would know that he knew it was a compliment. You know?
Right. And have you ever totaled up how many voices you think you can do?
I actually counted a little over 300.
Can you?
And in the show Voices of a Generation, which will be at the Ron DeCar Event Center.
Yeah, we're going to mention that. Go
Yes,
ahead.
July 16th, 7 p.m. My special guest opener will be Rita Lim, singer, very talented. She was on a radio show yesterday. I'll be over there. And in that show will be about 100 voices.
I mean, you can really do that without breaking a sweat or...
Yeah, well,
being
I break a sweat.
You break a sweat, yeah. But
I break a sweat, but yeah.
But you can do that without a problem.
Yeah, I do. And that's how many are in the show, about 100 voices.
And again, I mean, you
with
do,
material and, comedy.
I mean, you do a number of shows all over the country. I mean, you still do. You still
a lot of
able to
corporate
fit it in.
shows and theaters and casinos.
And have people ever asked you to do a voice that you never thought about or you couldn't do? Or?
Oh, the requests I get. I mean, people will yell out, do the bird on Beretta. Remember that show? Do Lassie. And I go, I'll do Lassie, you'll be the tree.
Yeah.
So shut up, okay? No, they call out all kinds of crazy things.
They do. And you can handle most of them.
Well, I think what you do is, like I'll do a bit in my show where I plan on doing a Johnny Cash impression. I go, call out any singer, I'll do them. And someone will do Frank Sinatra. I'll go, Johnny Cash, thank you.
Yeah,
and then
you
do
go.
who you want.
You do it that way. You got to listen.
So it's a one way.
I thank you, as always, for being with the paper.
Oh, absolutely.
Doing our radio show.
It's my pleasure.
And we're going to be doing a lot more gigs together. And
Yes, we're going to light this town up. The Vegas voice,
one way
baby.
or another. Anyway, Rich, I thank you so much for being here. We'll be talking again, as always. And this is Dan Roberts for On the Town. And we thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again real soon.